China, India, and Japan, the secret language of fighting. In the 6th century, a South Indian prince walked into a cave in China and did not come out for 9 years. When he finally emerged, he had invented Kung Fu, or so the legend says. But the truth is far stranger and far more fascinating. From the Shaolin Temple to the Samurai Dojo, the martial arts of China, India, and Japan share a hidden DNA. Bowing, breathing, the concept of life energy, whether you call it chi, prana, or ki, these are not coincidences. They are the echoes of a single man. Or rather, a single legend that shaped the fighting traditions of half of Asia. Today, we separate fact from myth to uncover the real similarities between the three great martial cultures of the East. And it all begins in the warm waters of South India. Long before the Shaolin Temple existed, India had already perfected the art of war. The Vedas, sacred texts dating back to 1700 BC, contain the Dhanurveda, a section entirely dedicated to martial arts. This is the oldest written record of organized fighting systems on Earth. But the living tradition is Kalaripayattu. Born in the southern state of Kerala, it is arguably the oldest martial art still practiced today. Its name comes from the Malayalam words Kalari, meaning training ground, and Payattu, meaning practice or exercise. Kalaripayattu warriors trained in weapons, empty-hand strikes, and something extraordinary, the Marmam system. These are 108 vital pressure points on the human body. Strike one correctly, and you could kill or paralyze. This knowledge came from India's medical tradition, from yoga and Ayurveda. The Mahabharata epic describes heroes like Arjuna mastering these techniques under the Guru Drona. But Indian martial arts did not stay in India. They traveled north along the Silk Road, carried by Buddhist monks. And one monk in particular would change everything. His name was Bodhidharma. In India, he was a prince possibly of the Pallava dynasty in the 5th or 6th century. When his brothers conspired to steal his throne, he renounced royalty and became a Buddhist monk. His teacher gave him a mission: travel to China and spread the Dharma. So he walked from South India across the Himalayas into the heart of China. Legend says the Chinese Emperor Wu invited him to court and asked, "I have built many temples. What is my divine merit?" Bodhidharma's reply, "None whatsoever." The emperor was not impressed. So the cranky monk left and headed to a remote monastery on Mount Song. A place called Shaolin, the small forest temple, founded just 30 years earlier in 495 AD by another Indian monk named Buddhabhadra. But the abbot refused him entry. So Bodhidharma climbed to a nearby cave, and he meditated facing the stone wall for 9 years. Legend claims his image burned into the rock. When he finally entered Shaolin, he found the monks weak, their bodies broken by endless sitting meditation. And so Bodhidharma taught them exercises. 18 movements derived from Indian yoga and Kalaripayattu to strengthen their bodies and focus their minds. These exercises became the foundation of Shaolin Kung Fu. Now, historians debate this story. The earliest known text linking Bodhidharma to martial arts only appears in 1624, over 1,000 years later. Chinese monasteries practiced martial arts before Bodhidharma arrived. Archaeological evidence shows monks defending their temples with weapons as early as 446 AD. But here is what is undeniably true. Whether Bodhidharma invented Shaolin Kung Fu or simply inspired it, the Shaolin monks became the most feared warriors in China. By the Tang dynasty in the 7th century, Shaolin's warrior monks were legendary. 13 of them helped Emperor Li Shimin rescue his son from a rebel army. The emperor repaid them by declaring Shaolin the supreme temple of all China. The Shaolin Kung Fu spread across the country. It absorbed Chinese philosophy, Taoism's softness overcoming hardness, Confucianism's discipline and hierarchy. And at its core was Chan Buddhism, the Chinese translation of Bodhidharma's Dhyana school of meditation. The Chinese called him Dhammo, and his teachings fused Indian physical training with Chinese strategy. The result was a complete fighting system: strikes, kicks, joint locks, and weapons all performed in flowing sequences called Taolu. But the journey was not over. Bodhidharma's Buddhism Chan in China was about to cross another sea. In Japan, Bodhidharma is known as Daruma. His image is everywhere, those round, red, papier-mâché dolls with no arms or legs. Every new year, the Japanese burn their old Daruma dolls and buy new ones. 500,000 people gather at a temple in March for the Daruma festival. But the real legacy is deeper. Chan Buddhism traveled from China to Japan and became Zen. and Zen found a perfect partner: the samurai. The samurai lived by Bushido, the way of the warrior. They pledged their very lives as an act of loyalty to their lord. To die gloriously in battle was the highest honor. This philosophy required absolute mental control. No fear of death. No hesitation. Zen meditation zazen trained the mind to be empty, present, and lethal. The unarmed fighting systems of Okinawa, what would become karate, absorbed Chinese kung fu through trade routes. Jiu-jitsu developed throws and joint locks. Aikido turned an opponent's energy against them, and Kendo, the way of the sword, made the samurai's blade an extension of the spirit. In every Japanese dojo, students bow. They practice kata, the Japanese word for the same forms used in China. They control their breathing, and they cultivate ki, the Japanese pronunciation of the Chinese ki, which is the Sanskrit prana. 3 cultures, 1 concept. So what are the real similarities? First, energy. China calls it chi, India calls it prana, Japan calls it ki. All 3 believe that mastering this life force through breathing and movement unlocks power beyond pure muscle. Second, meditation. The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali taught single-pointed focus. This became Buddhist mindfulness, which became Zen emptiness. Martial artists do not just train the body, they train the mind to be calm in chaos. Third, forms. Whether Taolu in China, Kata in Japan, or Mepayatu in India, repetitive sequences preserve techniques across generations. They are living textbooks. Fourth, pressure points. The marmam of Kalaripayattu appears as dim mak in Chinese martial arts, the death touch, and kyusho in Japanese karate. Fifth, philosophy. Every master teaches the same paradox. You learn to fight so you do not have to. Warrior's path is self-discipline, not violence. These are not coincidences. They are connections forged on the Silk Road, carried by monks and refined by warriors. But here is the twist history does not tell you. The Bodhidharma who supposedly invented Kung Fu, his own Yi Jinjing, the muscle change classic, credited to him, was almost certainly written in 1624, over 1,000 years after his death. The story of the Indian prince who taught the Shaolin monks? It does not appear in any Chinese text before the 19th century. The legend was popularized by a novel serialized in 1904, not by historical records. Does that make it false? No. It makes it myth. And myth is not the opposite of truth. Myth is the story people tell to explain why things are connected. Because whether Bodhidharma was real or not, the connections are real. Indian yoga gave China its breathing. Chinese Kung Fu gave Okinawa its karate. Zen Buddhism gave the samurai their fearlessness. The next time you bow before stepping onto a mat, remember, you are not just practicing a martial art. You are participating in 2,500 years of history, stretching from the temples of India to the mountains of China to the castles of Japan. That is not a coincidence. That is a legacy. End screen. Subscribe for more history documentaries.